see that. No, you're getting.
Call to order and reporting of the new vice president.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Here,
Kane,
Here.
Ellis,
Read open meeting compliance statement.
I, the undersigned clerk of the Board of Education of the Alva Independent School District Number 1 of Woods County, Oklahoma, certify that prior to December 15 of the last calendar year, the date, time, and place of this regular meeting was filed in the office of the County Clerk of Woods County, Oklahoma. I also certify that at least 24 hours prior to this meeting, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, notice of the date, time, place, and agenda of this meeting was posted in prominent public view at the location of the meeting. Witness my hand this second day of October 2017.
Consent agenda. All the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature, normally approved by one board vote, unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and approval of the following. 3, addition of items of new business to the agenda.
Have none.
Minutes of the September 5th, 2017 regular board meeting.
Anybody see any problems, corrections? Okay.
No, sir.
Approval of the treasurer's report on the status of funds and investments.
You want to read all of those and then come back to
I
that,
do.
Jake?
I always forget that I'm supposed to read all of them, sorry.
It's all right.
Approval of the child nutrition report, approval of the activity fund report, approval of the activity account fundraisers, and approval of items to be declared as surplus.
You can see on that first attachment that our encumbrance comparison, we general fund, we've encumbered over $638,000 compared to last year. Warrant is up a little bit, $67,000. Revenue comparison, we've got $90,000 more, and gross production again was good with $156,000. A year ago, this next report that I'll go to on the next attachment, our investment a year ago was $7,945,400, and this year it's $9,715,602.31. So almost up to 2 full million. So we're in good shape there. Has to do with the interest and also some of the carryover that we did take in. So again, our bank statements are good and solid and so forth. Any questions on that one? Child nutrition report, really don't have a whole lot because we're a month behind and all that, so you can see those are the first 2 weeks of school. I will tell you that I was talking to Verlita today. We served 689 students, and last year at this point in time we served about 500. So with the addition of pre-K and also the possibility of a little bit more variety in the menus at the middle school and so forth with salads and so forth, I think we've got more kids eating. And I don't know, principals, it seems like it's being worked out, all the bugs and everything that we talked about earlier. So I think that's going pretty smooth at this point in time. But, you know, they've got all the carts and salads and so forth. So really think we are participating more with these new menus and everything. So we'll have more next month go when we get all the bills because we are a month behind and all that. Activity funds, really in good shape there. You can see everything's in pretty good shape. You know, it amazes me that every time I look at that, we're right at that $300,000 in that activity fund account and so forth. So I think everything's in good shape there. Fundraisers. I didn't see anything out of normal. Student council, you know, Red Ribbon Week, and then we've got Go Bucket Olympics later on this spring when we're almost out of school. Also basketball homecoming t-shirts, football homecoming t-shirts. Concessions, basketball, pregame dinners, penny drive for a national charity, cheerleaders, homecoming week, they sold mums. That's the first time we've sold mums in several years. And then the library, their fines and so forth are going to go up to a nickel per day late. Did that all year long. And then charge them to wear hats. I think student council or Key Club did it for Smithy family, raised almost $400 just by wearing hats. Cross country, concessions, and there's the Key Club September students to wear hats, book fairs, baseball, the banners on the fence, also the chili supper, pre-game dinners. So nothing out of the ordinary. So any questions on any of the fundraisers? And I think the only thing that we have in surplus at this point in time is an old weed eater from Washington. We took it down to the shed, so we've declared that surplus. Unless you have questions, I would recommend to the board that we approve the consent agenda as written.
I make that motion.
Second.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane.
Yes.
Vote to approve purchase order encumbrances for the following funds for fiscal year 18. 4A, General Fund number 11.
Okay, we can go over some of those expenditures and I'll explain them. Purchase order 337, those are the supplies at the middle school tech ed program that comes out of their career tech funds. We needed some Apple computers, 347 for special ed teachers. 352, that is some door closures on some existing doors that were there, but the door closures did not come with it. That was our responsibility, and also 2 door closures, I believe, at Longfellow. Okay? 353 is our contract for cleaning after school. 364 is the Wells Fargo lease on our minibus. That's a 3-year lease, and we have to vote on that each and every year. 370, ag education curriculum. 378, our fire alarms test and repair. We had some faulty switches, I understand. 381 is the cost for our security for our computers. That's the district firewall software. And 386, we replaced the Promethean, I believe, in Mr. Eckhart's class. It was not working, and this one was a touch screen also a little bit, so it's a little bit higher. And then 390, Lincoln Chromebooks. That is some money that we get from the State Department for school improvement, so we have to purchase something that will improve the educational process. So I believe, Madison, we're going to do Chromebooks and some software and math and some other things of that nature.
That'll give us 1-to-1 our Chromebooks and our laptops.
And then 400. That goes back to about 4 years ago when we had the Office of Civil Rights here on a suspension. We're going to have to draw up some specific policies, and they're going, and it doesn't coincide with what the State Department does for us, because it has to meet the the Office of Civil Rights compliant and language and so forth. So Bo Rady, the attorney, is going to draw that up so that we can clear this thing up finally, hope forever. But that has to do back to the suspension of a student. They didn't think we followed all of the protocol for a special needs student, which we did.
It's been 4 or 5 years ago, we're just now working on a policy.
No, we didn't hear back from OCR for probably a year and a half, 2 years. And then they look at it and suggest to the attorneys what we do, and they haggle back and forth. So these are the things that we've agreed that we would do to solve this and to change our policies to meet their needs.
So they're writing a policy now, and we'll bring that.
And we'll bring that to you in November, and hopefully we'll vote on it there at that point in time. Okay? And then you can see the purchase orders for the different payroll for substitutes and also new employees.
Heard we have mold on that.
Okay, we had mold at Longfellow. We replaced part of a wall in Mrs. Mackey's room. Possibility of mold at Lincoln, at Washington, and also at the middle school. So they came in and checked and did not have it at the middle school or Lincoln, but we do have some in the boys' bathroom at Washington. We're trying to make sure that the roof is fixed before we go back in and do any of that. So we're in compliance with all of that. But basically down at Longfellow, we just had some ceiling tile, but it wasn't enough to take, so we got by with it. But that's what it cost us to get them all inspected and get the mold removed from Longfellow, because we had a full wall of it there. And Freddie Riggins came in and put the wallboard back up, and it's in between an existing classroom wall and the old addition to it, so there's some dead space in there. So we also put a vent in there so we can get some air circulated in there, because it was just in there, just nowhere to go. And Freddie did a great job and very inexpensive. Pretty good deal. Anything else?
Where was the new ice machine? Where did it go?
Okay, that goes into the athletic complex for all the girls and boys up there in the indoor facility, so they can get ice. And it's big enough everybody can get it. Any other questions? You want to go to building fund now?
4B Building Fund number 21.
The indoor dressing room, we also bought one of those bottle filled drinking fountains. And that's about $300 less than what we've been able to. And then Rose Plumbing, Longfellow, we had water heaters. We had some other things over there, about 4 or 5 small things that they need to take care of. Rick Brown Construction, those are for the bleacher repairs at the high school football field. We put some aluminum there. And then he also repaired some doors. And then Index of Oklahoma is that portable classroom fire alarm that we had to install to meet the codes for the city. Any other questions?
Child Nutrition Fund number 22, change orders.
Okay. And that's an added employee that we hired last month.
Gift Fund,
Those are the share scholarships that are going to Northwestern. So if you don't have any questions on any of that, I would recommend to the board that they approve the encumbrances as presented.
I move that we approve the purchase order encumbrances referenced in 4A, 4B, 4C, and 4D.
Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Principal's reports.
Allison?
Shannon, are you starting? We're kind of doing a group presentation.
Okay.
again.
So we were going to talk to you guys about the MAP test that we've been administering for the last, mainly first couple of weeks of school. And MAP is a program put out by the Northwest Education Association. And as the state report card is shifting to more of a growth measure, we wanted to align with that. So this MAP test is an apples for apples comparison from each test to the next. We do it 3 times a year. And the score is called a RIT score, and what it does is, let's say a kid in the 4th grade scores a 220 on that, and you have another kid, say in the 7th grade, and they score a 220. It's an apples for apples comparison about where they are in their education. And so shifting to that growth mentality, and it kind of goes along with our curriculum mapping and our curriculum alignment. It also is an approved measure for the Reading Sufficiency Act, which affects my ability and Longfellow. And that's the screening instrument that we use to determine whether a kid is considered at risk and whether we need to provide interventions for those students. So it helps us to narrow our focus to what we need to do to continue to progress them along. But we had to take quite a few steps to implement this. It's a pretty robust program. And we had to make sure that our technology was ready to go. That could be checking the specs on the computers to make sure that they can handle the program. We had to put down a lockdown browser, which doesn't allow kids to get out and surf the web and find the answers. They can only take the test. Purchasing of headphones, because the program does have text-to-speech. So if a kid is not quite at a reading level, it reads some of the questions to them. So we had to provide some headphones to limit those distractions within the testing environment. The next thing we had to do is we had to support the teachers, because anytime you throw technology in this way at teachers, you've got to support them with people that can help them move along. So we found people within our district, mainly at Lincoln, that had some experience with it. I was very lucky that I had Chastity Gingrich on my staff to help facilitate that. And then we put multiple teachers into each testing session. So we would cover classes so that when the teacher's trying to administer the test and run the program, if kids had questions, there weren't multiple kids pulling at the teachers, and kind of relieved a little bit of stress for them in that way. What was interesting about that was that they started exchanging ideas, and helping each other and sharing, which was great. So we learned from some mistakes, and we'll retest in December. And at that point, we'll have a pretty good idea of, what we're doing well and what we're not doing well in that short period of time. And we have some kids that started out at Lincoln and have been testing and have taken 3 or 4 of those that are now in the middle school, and we can view that growth, and it specifically tells us what they're ready for, what kind of materials they're ready for. So I heard about this program long before I came over here, and I always wanted to implement it, but we didn't do that over there, and so I've kind of enjoyed seeing it all play out.
I actually brought you the report because I was sick of me bringing you things. But this is the student profile report, which is something that teachers find to be the most handy in the classroom when they're trying to differentiate instruction. And you're going to see 3 columns there on this front page, and one of them tells...
Are there any names on this?
No, I whited her out. Or him. Who knows? Who knows who it might be. There are 3 columns, and the first one is just like projected proficiency. So it tells us that she's in the 59th percentile, that they believe she will score proficient when she takes the test again, and it has on track for ACT readiness. So as of right now, with the information she has learned, she will score a 22 on the ACT with the information she has. And then in the middle there, it tells us instructional areas. So these are her lowest areas. So just right on this report, it tells the teacher her lowest areas where she needs to work. And he mentioned the RIT score. It gives us a cumulative RIT score of 209 at the top, but then in each strand, it gives us a more broken down RIT score for those areas. And it tells us, the teacher, right on this report, that her suggested area of focus is critical reading, interpret, and evaluate text. If you turn the page and you look at the handy little line graph there, this is a student that took the test in 4th grade, so this fall was her 4th time taking the test. And she's actually grown from a 192 RIT score up to a 209, which is quite impressive because the studies here have shown that most kids, when they come back from summer, their RIT score will decrease because there's loss over the summer. But she did really well for he. And she moved from a 192 fall 2016 to a 209 fall 2017, which is really great. That next page is just an example of something teachers are using. They're setting goals with the students, which means they're involving their students in the process of setting a goal. So the kids are actually seeing this report on themselves, which is a great way for them to take ownership and responsibility of what they're trying to achieve. So this little paper, they have a mini conference, and the teacher and the student decide what is their goal that they want to work on, what focus area, how are they going to reach their goal at home and at school, and then they'll come back to this later to decide if they've met their goal or not. Another thing we're doing is something called growth groups, and growth groups are where we get students that are all, weak in one area, like maybe in vocabulary. And we put 3 or 4 of those together, and then they collaborate and decide what strategies and resources they have to reach their goal. So they work together with the teacher, of course. And then they'll meet every few weeks to see if they need to change and move on to a new goal, or if they want to keep working in the same goal. So those are some ways that we're using it. Oh, I also need to mention Title I. We're using this, our Title I teachers are using it in their classrooms. You could see on this report, it's just so easy for them to pinpoint exactly what the student needs and what gaps they have. It's been a very useful tool. So, you guys have any questions about the report?
Do you go over this with a student one-on-one?
Yes. And that takes a lot of time.
Yes.
And the teachers are finding that, and there's actually 4 subject areas that they took the test in. We included science this year. So it does take a lot of time to do that, but we're finding that it's worth the time because the students are so invested in earning their goals. Yeah.
Now, our teachers are utilizing this too during current teacher conferences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a report. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My bad. I have the in front of me.
You, I have nothing else to add.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Shane kind of took mine. I was supposed to talk about RIT scores, but I'll go ahead and hand these out to you. And I will talk for just a minute.
We need to be reinforced.
Yes, we do.
This is your remediation.
It does. It doesn't hurt for us to get started.
The RIT score is just kind of like an estimation of the student's instructional level. It's not going to say, hey, how is this kid doing in math class this year? It's not that kind of test. You're wanting to see, progress or growth in school. That's what the overall goal is. And kids that are younger are going to show more growth, usually than the older kids. And the kids that test higher to begin with are going to have a harder time going up. Yeah, because, that's just a harder, you just don't show as much growth in that. And sometimes, the scores will decline from test to test, and that doesn't, we all have good days, we all have bad days, some days we take it more seriously, and that's something that they're trying to, to take into effect, and that's the reason why they test 3 times a year, and they're trying to track that growth. So that's essentially, they think that growth over time is a better measure of student learning, actually. And they do, on the reports that you have, there are national norms, and they're saying, this is, kind of typical growth, but that's not necessarily expected growth, but they're hoping for that. And so our goal is to make sure that the teachers use the data to differentiate and to adjust their instruction to make sure that the kids are getting everything that they need to be successful.
You 3 times a year you test, remind me? You said you test 3 times a year, so you tested.
We just got,
We just
finished,
did our
and you'll
first
do it
one,
again in
right.
December? And
Yes,
then another
December,
one-
January.
okay, and then another one in April,
In-
May?
yep,
or-
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so parent-teacher conferences.
Yay.
The 4 of us are in them right now. What are parents going to be seeing? So the print-off that Madison handed to you is something that is one way of looking at it, and this is a kind of a simpler way to look at it for some of our all the teachers in my building, I believe in most other buildings, are using this. There you go. This is a student goal setting worksheet, and in this you can see where this student, and I have them, their name crossed off of course, where they test it in math, reading, language arts, and science. Let's see, kinder and first do reading and math only, and then 2nd grade does reading, math, and language arts, and then at 3rd grade they add science. So depending on what grade level, depend on what all they're going to see here. But then it gives a projected growth projection. And on this one, we did for the winter. So what are we projecting to see? How much growth are we projecting to see between now and when we test in December? And you can also do it to spring. I think some schools might have done from here to the spring, and that would be a larger growth window. But at Longfellow, and I believe at Washington as well, we did from fall to winter, kind of the baby steps, because that's kind of where our kids are. We need to see those baby steps. And we don't want to overwhelm parents. 3 of our 4 schools, this is the first time we've done this, and so we want to get buy-in, and we don't want to overwhelm anyone, and us ourselves, we're learning as we go as well. And if you look over here, kind of like Madison was saying, it's just a different way of looking at it, but all of our parents are going to be receiving this tonight and tomorrow. If they're yellow, those are areas of concern that we are going to be addressing with those parents. It breaks it down, number and operations, geometry measurements. And then if it's green, it's an area of relative strength, because of course we always want to come back with what are they doing well. No one wants to go to a parent-teacher conference and hear all the negatives. They want to know what they're doing well and what they're strong in, but they also want to know where they can help them at. And so this is just a neat little chart, and we did it in color because I think it makes such a difference when you can see it in that color. And so all the kiddos will be bringing this home. And also, Mrs. Levitt found this, and I thought this was really neat, and I'm sure they've probably seen it as well, but this is a comparative data to inform instructional decisions. And this is not something we're going to send home with parents, but it helps guide our teachers in decision making. And you can tell, kind of like they've been talking about the RIT score, you can see kind of where is the median for kinder, for first, for second, for third. So as a teacher, you can kind of see where they're falling and make necessary interventions. Once a student falls below the 40th percentile, we are putting in those interventions. We're sending them to the title teacher, to our tutors that we have on staff to help with those interventions in those areas of concern. And the profile that Madison gave you, it breaks it down even greater than what this does. And so the students will then also, in Shane's building and in my building, they'll also be then doing literacy first testing, because we have to have that second piece of data for the RSA in reading. So then if they're under 40 percentile, then the title teacher or the special ed teacher, depending on where they fall, will then administer literacy first. So we have that second piece of data to reinforce, are we hitting what they're missing? And so where do we go from here? Like Shane said, in December, we'll do our second group of testing. We'll actually be able to now see their growth and see where they're progressing, or are they not progressing, and then we need to relook at our interventions, and we need to make stronger interventions so that we can make sure that we can get the kids on track to where they need to be.
Will there be some kind of a parental survey to see how the parents receiving this and accepting it, because this is
That's a
something.
great idea.
I just, well, I mean, sometimes I go, my gosh, this is the best thing they ever handed me, and sometimes it's like, I don't know, I'm just lost. I don't know how to read this thing. I'm just wondering, and you won't be able to answer that until after it's all said and done. Kind of just get a feel from your parents, like,
Well, that's a good idea,
I think
so
it
we
looks
know.
great, but.
It doesn't do any good if it's not serving its
perceived well,
purpose,
right?
yeah.
And they look
absolutely.
at it and go, it's not my problem, that's yours, so, and it's our problem, so. I
Absolutely.
just wondered about it, and I don't know how to do that, I don't know.
I was gonna ask you, do you
Well,
have a survey?
No,
up your
I
sleeve?
don't, I don't, and you know, that's, you can always, you can do a lot of survey monkeys and do a lot of things
Where
with
does the
surveys,
idea?
but just the idea, get a feel for it, you know, I don't know, I just wonder.
It is good.
Great
outside.
idea.
I mean, it's, sometimes we hand out so many papers, you walk out going, oh my, I got school.
Yeah.
But that's good stuff, thank you.
And I forgot to give him a copy of those.
Good job, kids.
Okay, I gave earlier a couple of different papers there. As we go through and we continue this curriculum mapping process, we talk about assessments and those things. And I had several teachers ask me about formative assessments and summative assessments. And so at our last faculty meeting, I gave them real simplified definitions of each one of those things. I also got on and found them 50 or 60 ways that they could formatively assess, which formative assessments, the little bitty snippets of information to see if they're getting the daily lesson, whatever that lesson is for that day to do that. It may be an exit ticket when they leave the classroom. In math, I may have given you 2 problems. I want to see these 2 done before you leave. And that way they know they're on the right track when they leave, get ready to go do homework that night. And it may be they go do their homework that night and they come back and they take a little short 2-question quiz when they get back the next day to check homework understanding and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of different ways that they can formatively assess, and we kind of give teachers the autonomy to do what they want to do in their classroom to make that happen. The second form that I gave you is just a little sheet that we're going to track that with. A lot of this stuff is it's a shorter but more detailed version of their map. That it gives a time frame, it gives a type of assessment, it gives a form of assessing how they're actually going to do that. We're going to list kids' names on mastery and list kids' names on remediation. This is strictly for the teacher. They are going to go through and see which kids got it, which kids didn't. Overall, high school age kids, it's real hard to do remediation with those kids because we get in that mode of covering so much stuff. We got to cover, but we don't do a good job of going back if they didn't get it, going back and remediating those. So I want my teachers to focus on the remediation part for the students that didn't capture that concept, and but I want them to write their names on there, and then what they did. Did they have them come in? We have several teachers that will come in the morning and help kids and do that. They'll stay at lunch and help them. We have math tutors Tuesday through Friday morning that come from the college. Upward Bound does a tutor Tuesday through Friday morning, and they do one Monday after school and Wednesday after school. And so we want kids to utilize those things and teachers to check on kids that aren't grabbing those concepts to see how they're going to catch them up to do that. So this is just kind of a more detailed version of the map that they can put just the highlights and then be real detailed with who's getting it and who's not getting it.
And when was this implemented?
We are in the process of doing it right now. We talked about it at our last faculty meeting, and I've ordered some little yellow pocket folders, and I'm going to put a bunch of these blank ones in there. The time frame on these will be, it'll line up with what their map is. If their map is a 5-week deal, this will probably end up being about once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever that big concept is. And when they give their summative test, their summarization test at the end of the chapter, or however they choose to assess that, that's who will be on this list, who didn't get the big picture. And so they'll be able to go back and try to figure that out to get those kids some extra help.
And so after this is implemented, will the teachers be given the opportunity to voice whether, boy, I love this, this is helping me a bunch, or this is a waste of my time?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll revamp as we see fit
I don't
to
mean
do
to be
that.
into surveys, but sometimes we do a lot of things with the best interest at heart.
Actually,
Sometimes I
what-
look at you and go, I can't even see above my.
I had a
desk. Where are you
meeting
giving me this
with my
from?
department heads,
Uh-huh.
they came up with this.
Great, okay.
So it's got, I mean, this is not my form, this
Right,
is their form.
that's- They bought into
And
it.
they had me give it to them at a faculty meeting and done that.
That's exciting.
And we'll do that, and then, so I wanted to give it to them, we gave it to them this 2 Fridays ago.
Okay.
And they had a chance to come to me and add any additional things on there. Some teachers have put essential questions on here because they want those on there. So they have some room to add some things that they want to see on that form to do what they need to do. This is just kind of an outline, but we
Sure.
want to make sure we target kids that need extra help. And I just feel like sometimes we maybe miss the boat there, that we shouldn't do that. We got to get those kids extra help. If they don't get it, we get in that mode of going on so fast.
Well,
Sometimes we miss
the
them.
squeaky wheel gets oiled, but sometimes we don't squeak.
Yeah.
And then I just pass by and all
Well,
of
if
a
I
sudden.
can sit,
they-
if I can sit in the classroom, nobody ever calls on me.
You
then
bet.
it's
Well,
a-
life is
I
good
can
then.
squeak
You bet.
by,
Yeah,
yeah.
You're
So,
right. Thank
If you have
you.
anything else, let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Power. Thank you, everybody.
I think I'm
You guys want to leave since you've got parent-teacher conference and ball game? Thank you all, appreciate you very much.
Keep up the good work.
Good job.
Was very good.
Thank you.
Keeping us informed.
High schools also, we've got people coming in to explain study island to them so they can make those general assessments and be checked and everything to help them with those assessments. When are they coming? What, the 24th of October is when people from study island? are
Oh, that was the other thing I had written down. 25th of October, and
Okay.
accreditation is open. We've started it. I started on mine this afternoon, so that's a.
But it's all about assessment, where the kids are, how are we going to improve them, reteaching, those types of things. So everybody's doing a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start mine with Sherry because she's pretty happy about this grant.
Yeah. So Tara Warwick, who is our autism specialist, she used to go to school in Alva, so she's an Alva girl. She and her colleagues at the OU Child Study Center wrote a grant to help 3 schools in the state of Oklahoma, 1 smaller school, medium-sized school, and a larger school. And we've been selected to participate in this grant. She is coming into Washington, and she's going to be in 3 different classrooms, and she is going to show us how to effectively implement classroom management and evidence-based instructional strategies. She has some tools that she uses to just check on, like an evaluative type of tool, and she's going to teach us how to use it. So then from those 3 classrooms, we can go to other classrooms and use the same techniques. And so it's an absolute amazing thing that we were selected. So I'm super excited about it. Yeah.
We need some publicity on this.
Yeah. So.
He smiles.
You just knew it, guy.
He's running as fast as he can. That's that cursive practice over there.
Maybe you just need to write up something about it, Sherry, and present it to me.
That would be
Yeah.
very helpful.
There you go.
Because you
When
know
I
the
get
ins and
with,
outs,
yeah, and when I get with Tara, I can make sure that I represent it well, and so she's
Okay.
coming. Actually, I'm taking.
It's Tara Audi.
Yeah, so we'll get together and we'll write up something.
Thank
so.
you very much.
Yeah,
But behavioral in the classroom, class management, the whole,
instructional strategies,
so.
everything. It's amazing. I did a
That's
little
fabulous.
dance.
Congrats.
All right.
Congrats.
Dancing is good.
Yeah.
We do have 2 resignations. Richard Burton is going to resign from our transportation. And we are in the process of looking to replace that. We've had some interviews. We're waiting to see if we can get any more applicants for it. And then Joanne is not really going to resign. She's going to retire. She's going to go home. She's going to go play with her grandkids and so forth. So we're looking in-house at this point in time. If we find somebody in-house, we may not open it to the outside. I don't know yet. So, but we're looking at those. Okay? And then my communications. I've got the Oklahoma School Board meeting, and it's at Burlington, and it's October 24th. Jane, Karen, and I are going. Larry will go. Tiffany, you think you can go?
I don't know what day of the week that is. But is that a Tuesday?
That's a Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday, I believe.
Is it Tuesday? Okay.
I'll give up
Oh,
my
there's a
golf
big
for that.
calendar right there. It is, it's a Tuesday.
It's a
Thank you for
Tuesday.
having that big calendar. It's old eyes to see it.
It starts at, the early bird starts at 5:30, so we felt like we could leave here at 5 o'clock from the superintendent's office. Go in one van. Tiffany, you can call me later, call Pam, let her know. Okay? Also, we've got a letter from school, from the election boards for our annual election set up. And resolution, that's for you to look at this point in time. We'll come back in November and vote to approve or not to approve it and get it to them. We've got until November the 17th to do that. And the other instrument that you're looking at is closing of the precincts. We chose to close those precincts last year because of the number of voters. I didn't hear any complaints whatsoever, but again, it has to be a vote, and we will do that in November. We just wanted you all to have that information so that we didn't have to make rash decisions tonight. So that's just information for you all, and we'll bring it back next school board. We do have an enrollment of today, 1,048, so we're constant, and they're all working on their accreditation reports, so I believe that's 24 up from a year ago at this point in time. And then I don't know if you all are keeping track of our special session, but we do not have a special session anymore. It's in limbo at this point in time because either side can't help each other out a little bit. So I don't know what's going to happen with that session. And that's all I have. Do y'all have any questions for me? Okay. Current business?
Number 7A, discussion with possible board action, resolution for the Oklahoma State Department of Education of Alva Public Schools intent to use hours rather than days for the fiscal year 18 school calendar.
That letter is the same letter that we've sent the past couple, 3 years. That does give us leeway. I know the first year I was superintendent, we had 6 days that we missed because of snow, but because of the hours, we did not have to make them up. Last year, we didn't miss any school, so we taught 175 days, and we had 5 days professional. That just gives us leeway. And I'd recommend to the board that we approve this as written.
Aren't most schools going to the hours? They seem to be, because selfishly as an educator, when you miss my class, you've missed something. So when we miss it for snow, what you missed out. And I would always say, I'm old fashioned. If you miss my class, well, you'll have to come back and make it up. But I understand that the hours is the way things are going. And it does give the schools a lot more leeway. So the 175 days or whatever it was in the past. So.
Well, and the other thing too, Karen, is because if you have to make up 6 days, you're going to what, take spring break away, or are you going to add it to the end of the school and still be in school on Memorial Weekend and those types of things?
Yeah.
That does give us leeway in there, and it's helped out.
What are our contracts based on?
180 days top. 5 professional days, 175 days.
So we should be covered.
Yes.
Your motion?
Make a motion that we approve the extra days.
7A.
Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
7B, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the revised extra duty salary schedule for fiscal year 18.
Our band vocal assistant director, we lowered the amount of money that we could start with due to her need because of Social Security. She could not make money, so in order to meet the salary, we're going to have to lower that. So I would recommend to the board that the extra duty be approved as presented to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker.
Yes.
7C, discussion with possible board action to vote to approve the revised extra duty assignments for fiscal year 18.
Kay Christensen is a teacher at the middle school and is an expert in track. Though she loves to coach track, we need help down there, so we would like to make her the assistant track coach at the high school girls. And then also Jill Connor, we had to lower her salary a little bit to meet her Social Security. So I would recommend to the board that they approve this as presented.
Motion,
I'd make that motion.
Second?
Herb,
Who was second? Is that Larry?
Larry.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott.
Aye. 7D, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the Alva Independent Schools Number 1 Gifted Educational Plan for 2017 and 18.
I think it was pretty much revamped quite a bit last year, and at this point in time, the new committee did not find any need to adjust the gifted and talented, so really there are no changes to this. I would recommend to the board that it be approved as presented, and it meets all the state requirements, I might add.
You want a motion on that? I would make the motion to accept the item 7D, Alva Independent Gift and Talented Educational Plan for 17-18.
Second?
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane.
Yes.
7E, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the estimate of needs for the Alva Independent School Number 1 for the 2017-18 school year.
Our first budget was around 12 million, and this reflects 17,938,374.97. And we just got this late Friday afternoon. I actually went over today from Buddy Carroll's and got the whole policy where it's broken down into the different objects and so forth. But you can see that our carry forward was 8 million this past year. So our budget is in really good shape, and all this will be divided into the different categories, and that's what I picked up today. And if we have any change orders or anything during the year, always remember that we won't be changing the total amount, just the amount in the different categories. And this is presented by Carroll and Associates, and I would move that the board adopt this as presented.
In the event someday we don't have that carryover, how will we replace that revenue?
You're going to have to start laying off people. You're going to have to watch what we spend very diligently and those types of things, because we haven't had to go into our carryover to deplete that. So we're very fortunate at this point in time. But when we see that trend, then that's when we're really going to have to start looking at our expenditures and what we're doing and so forth. But we've been fortunate at this point in time to do that.
Will we have some state funding to come in and replace that?
No, we do not have, if we ever do get off of that, yes, then the state funding can come back, and then we could get state funding, and that would be on the student population at that point in
We
time.
could replace it.
Yes,
somehow.
yes, I'm sorry. You are right there.
Your motion?
I make a motion we approve the revenue project.
Second.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker.
Yes.
7F, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve an offer of employment for the following non-certified employees for fiscal year 18.
Candidate number 1 is Ashley Bounds. It's replacing a middle school para. Candidate number 2 is Kathleen Hamlin, a middle school para. Jacob Gould, replacing a computer aide at both Lincoln and Longfellow. We had moved Brandon Hardy to a tech position, so he's replacing that. And then John Wood, young man from O'Keene, going to college. We'll put him at the high school as a custodian, working out in the new indoor facility and some of those buildings out there, so that after Kennedy McKnight resigned from us a month ago. So with the recommendations from the different principals, I would recommend to the board that they hire 7F1, 7F2, 7F3, 7F4 as presented to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Would you remind me of Kathleen's last name again? I did.
Hamlin, Hamlin.
Thank you.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott.
Aye. 7G, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve a request from head coach Dusty Horn to take the Ladybug basketball team in a school vehicle to Kansas to watch former Ladybug players who are playing at Dodge City Community College and Fort Hays State University.
Don't know when or anything, but they want the opportunity to be able to go and watch two ex-Ladybugs play at Dodge City or Fort Hays. And if they go across state line, we have to get permission from the board. And they will use a school vehicle for this. And I'd recommend to the board that we approve this.
I so moved.
Second.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
7H, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve a request from Kenneth McIntosh, choir director, to take the Electric Gold Show Choir by bus to Winter Park Ski Music Festival in Colorado, April 12th through 15th, 2018.
The choir has gone out there many years. They will utilize school vehicles if they have the money and so forth. And they will be in competition, but they will also get to ski a little bit. And I've been on that trip a couple of times and I've enjoyed it myself. So I would make the motion, or not the motion, but I would like for the board to approve this also as presented.
I make a motion that we approve McIntosh taking the electric gold choir to the park.
I'll second.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane.
Yes.
7I, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve renewal lease of a 2017 Collins 13-passenger bus for fiscal year 18, as required under the provisions of the lease agreement dated November 7, 2016 between Alva Public Schools and Wells Fargo Equipment Finance Incorporated.
Last year, we got into a rental agreement on the 14-passenger minibus, and we had to go through Wells Fargo. So it's the same type of lease that we have on our 74-passenger buses. It's a 3-year lease, and this is the same amount, and I would recommend to the board that this be passed also, or approved.
And you were pleased with the
Very
representation
well.
of the company and
I'm telling you, I like to drive it. I had to go out and get a handful of kids one day because we had a bus down, and it drives nice on the highway. And it's good. Our activity sponsors, without the CDLs and all of that, can drive that, and it's not a big hazard. I don't think I'd want to drive it today going east or west. It really does drive nice, and we may need to look at getting a couple more of those just for activities, to be real honest with you.
and accessibility.
Well, you know, you take 2 Suburbans or you can take this
Sure.
one minivan.
Sure.
And with the equipment, you know?
Yeah.
And about the same amount of gas, to be real honest with you, because they get about 8, 9 miles a gallon, that bus does. And Suburbans, they only get about 17, 18. So, been very happy with it.
They don't require a CDL either.
No, they do not require
Smaller
CDL.
passenger, yeah.
And the reason why, again, is because it does not have any of the safety functions. It has the cross arms and the lights and so forth. It's painted white. So that's the reason.
Okay, motion.
I make a motion that we
to the existing board policies.
No, bus rent,
That's right,
bus lease.
Yes.
7-9.
Yes.
7-9.
Second.
Kane,
Yes,
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Discussion only of new and revisions to existing board policies. We've seen these, right?
We have subscribed to the Oklahoma School Board Association. They're sending us monthly, quarterly, whenever they get these, for us to look at and for you all to approve them. This is just for your use only. You're going to be looking at these and then we'll vote on them next board meeting. There's some, bids and quotations, there's a couple changes there on that first one. On a corporal punishment, you can't apply corporal punishment to a special needs student and so forth. There are some changes, minor changes. The new FOB, I can't remember. That's the corporal punishment.
Are the changes the underlined?
Yes, the changes are underlined or crossed out. There are also some changes in there about the TLE and that we've got to use the professional development as part of the endorsement. I did not see anything wrong with any of those, but those are for you all to look at for a month, and if you have any problems or anything, just let me know, and then we'll vote on them next month. Okay? So there's nothing to discuss or to vote on at this point in time. So if you have any questions whatsoever. And there's a big one on the web page and who and what we have to post and so forth. And so
And that's basically changing for board policies too, isn't it? There's something new coming out about notification of the board meetings.
We've already been doing that.
we've been doing that, Jane.
Before,
Yeah, we've been letting them know by Friday doing that.
but now
Period,
there doesn't
right.
have to be so many, there have to be more days than Friday.
No, we were in compliance because we checked on it as soon as we got back from the school board and you asked me about that.
Okay.
We'll double check it again, but I think we're in
Supposedly a new
compliance.
law.
It is, but we've been doing it.
Okay.
so we're good.
It's effective November 1st, but we've actually, for special meetings, we were already doing the 48 hours excluding
Okay.
holidays.
And 24
But they
hours.
said the weekends didn't count.
Yeah, excluding.
Okay, so it's 48 hours before the
For
meeting,
special,
excluding
and
weekends.
24, so.
Okay.
So if we get it in Friday by 5 o'clock, it's in 24 hours before Monday.
For special meetings.
No, for the regular meetings.
Special meetings is 48 hours.
48 hours for that, and we have been doing that, okay?
And is our agenda on the website?
I'm sorry?
Is our agenda posted on the website?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
And, that's Pam's doing, the website, doing a great job with that. There's some things that we'll have to add and some additions that we can do. And so these are all the new policies.
It looked like it's something great, big different.
They did, I agree. As a newbie, I thought the same thing. I thought,
Oh, something different here.
Well, I think Terry and everybody's been up to date on that. We've always done 48 hours. That's why sometimes it's so hard to get a special meeting to get everybody in there and then get that 48 hours
posted.
posted also.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Any new business?
No?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
No, we can't do that yet, Larry.
Executive session. Proposed executive session to discuss the superintendent's evaluation for 25 section.
What is it?
Nice try, Larry.
Need a motion for that?
Yes,
I so moved.
I'll second.
second.
McDermott,
Sorry, aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Kane.
Yes.